In this lesson, we're going to look at two different methods we use to measure angles, and specifically we're going to spend some time with angles measured in decimal degrees and switching them to degrees, minutes, and seconds, and vice versa. So that's our primary objective today, and then we're going to do a few operations with those degrees, minutes, and seconds. So reading angles is really just like telling time. All right, so if you think of time, when we think about degrees, minutes, and seconds, it's going to make it very easy for you to remember. So remember for time that a clock, there's 12 hours in a single rotation. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour, and there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. Now, using this information, I think most of us would be able to convert 3 hours, 12 minutes, and 60 seconds into a decimal number of hours. How do you do that? Well, first of all, we need to combine minutes and seconds. So we'd say, I should have edited this because 60 seconds doesn't work so great, but anyway, 60 seconds divided by 60 equals 1 minute. Okay, plus we already had 12 minutes. So now we're up to 13 minutes. Okay, now that we have our 13 minutes, we're going to divide that by 60 to get the part of an hour, because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So what we're doing is we're just going through and we're doing our conversion. And if we take 13 and divide it by 60, you'll get 0.217 hours. And then we add on the original. So we know we had 3 hours to start. And we're going to add on 217.217 or 217 thousandths of an hour to add in this part. Okay? So keep that in mind. Think about that as we do degrees, minutes, and seconds, because I'm assuming that's where it actually came from. I didn't research it, but I'm thinking so. So when we're reading angles, angles have degrees, minutes, and seconds as well. So when we measure angles, one full rotation around our circle, every time we do a full rotation, we go from the middle because it's shorter, it's 360 degrees, okay? In between each of these little degrees, obviously we can't measure it with a protractor, we get minutes. And in 1 degree, there are 60 minutes. Like in 1 hour, there's 60 minutes. In 1 minute, there are 60 seconds. So you can see how this takes us down to very, very fine, precise measurement. So why do you guys have to learn how to do it? Well, apparently, and this is simply hearsay, apparently some of the equipment you use as precision machinists will require you to know degrees, minutes, and seconds. So this is the reason why we cover degrees, minutes, and seconds. The other thing is the textbook we are going to use as we continue the course will often have examples, and the examples will be written out. They usually use degrees and minutes, not as often that we see seconds, but we will often see this format there as well. Okay, so the symbol that we use for degrees is just the degree symbol. I know you're familiar with that from last semester. I know Ken's introduced that already. For minutes, we use a single quotation, and for seconds, we use a double quotation. You will never see this number. This number will always be less than 60. And this will always be less than 60. And the reason for those being less than 60 is because 60 makes a whole of the next larger unit. All right, so let's do a few conversions. So you want to convert the following to decimal degrees rounded to the nearest thousandth. So it's quite simple to do. First, you divide by 60 to convert the seconds to minutes. So we're going to take this number and we're going to divide it by 60. Okay? So 45 divided by 60 leaves us with, pull my calculator out here. Make sure it's too early in the morning for me to rely on head math. I haven't had enough coffee yet. So we get 0.75 minutes. So 45 seconds is 3/4 of a minute. We're going to add that onto our minutes. So now we take our 15 minutes plus 0.75 and we get 15.75, and we divide that by 60 to get what our decimal is for the degrees. So we know we have 76 degrees. Oops. We have 76 degrees. Sometimes I think I talk too slowly on this. I apologize. And then we're going to add in 15.75 divided by 60. So we get 2625, which would be 263. Okay, 76.263 degrees. Now, why do we need to be able to convert to decimals? Well, the reason for being able to convert to decimals is we need to know how to put it in our calculator. And our calculator takes degrees as decimals really well, but it doesn't do an especially good job of degrees, minutes, and seconds. I will show you a special button in the calculator for the next version of question. All right, so in this one, we have 5 seconds, 0 minutes, and 126 degrees. So we take our 5, we divide it by 60 to get our decimal. And depending on what you have for a calculator, sometimes you'll get scientific notation here. If you do, let me know and I'll help you out with that. So we get 0 decimal. Zero decimal 0.83 repeating. So that's minutes. We're going to divide by 60 again because we're in minutes and we need to get to degrees. So we're always, if you start with seconds, you're always going to end up dividing by 60 twice. If you started with minutes, you'd only end up, if you started with minutes, we could jump in here at step number 3. So we're going to divide by 60 again. And this is where your calculator may give you a weird scientific notation. I want you just to kind of not worry about that too much. It gives me 1.388 times 10 to the minus 3. So that's the same as saying 1 decimal 0, 0, 1, 3, 8, and then extra. So just take that number, even if it's in scientific notation, add your 126 to it. And you'll find it'll pull it back out of that scientific notation. So we have 126 decimal 001 degrees. So when you see scientific notation, if your calculator gives you something like 1.38, and then at the far side, a minus 3, which is what my calculator gave me, it means take this decimal and move it 3 decimal places to make that number smaller. That's where the minus comes in. So you'd go 1, 2, and you're going to put your decimal here instead. Okay, so 1.38 to the minus 3 is equal to that. That's just one of those by the way notes as we go. This one we have 0 degrees, 28 minutes, and 20 seconds. So take our 20 seconds, divide by 60. We're going to get 0.33. Plus, now I'm keeping all the decimals in my calculator, so you may get a little rounding variation if you don't. Plus, we're going to add in, now we add in the minutes. So we're going to add in our 28 minutes. We hit equals, and you get 28.333, and then we divide by 60 to get to our degrees. I was going to say hours, but it's degrees we're going to. Divide by 60, and we get 0.472 degrees. So it's not complicated, it's actually quite simple, but you just have to remember to follow your little steps. You'll have several practice questions with these on your SAM quiz. Next example, we go the other way. Now this is the easier one to do, I think. So with this one, we want to take our decimal degrees and we want to switch it back to degrees, minutes, and seconds. So think about doing inches to feet and inches, and that might help you out, or feet, decimal feet to feet and inches, that could help you out. We did a little bit of that, even though maybe it's not as applicable for you. So this one, you have 7 degrees, 0.255. So we know we have 7 whole degrees, so we fill that number in. Then we start with our decimal. 0, 0 decimal, 255. So that's the parts of a degree, and we're going to multiply it by 60. This will give us how many minutes? So 0.255 times 60 gives us 15.3. I keep my 3. Oops, I don't keep the 3, I keep the 15, sorry. Told you I needed more coffee before recording. So we're going to keep the 15, that's the whole number. So this is my whole minutes, and then I take the part of a minute, which is the 0.3, and we multiply by 60 to get how many seconds. And that gives me 18. Okay, so quite simple. Same thing with this one. We take our 130. We don't have to do anything with it. Then we take our decimal, 0.875. We're going to multiply by 60 because we want to find out how many minutes. That always will give us how many minutes. And I get 52.5. So I filled in the 52 already. I have 0.5 of a second, so I take 0.5 times 60, and we get 30. Okay, so fairly simple. Now, how do you do this on your calculator? This one you can do on your calculator. What I would like you to do is I would like you to type the number in, 25.368 degrees, and then I want you to look for a button that looks like this. I want you to hit that button and press equals. So we're going to press in 25.368, and if you have your trade math calculator with you, you're going to press the button that shows the degree sign, the minute sign, and the second sign. When you do that, you will find your calculator spits out to you 25, 22, 48. And what it's doing is it's telling you degrees, minutes, and seconds. So this is 25, 22, and 48. So it also gives you a method of doing that way. I would like you to be able to show a longhand version, but to be able to check it with your calculator is very good. Sometimes it will give you, oops, it's not a 48, it's a 4.8, sorry. 4.8, we're going to change that. And we'll change this, round that up to a 5. Every now and then I'll miss seeing the decimal because the decimal is very tiny on these. So this should go to a 5. Why go to a 5? Because this 4.8 rounds to 5 as a whole. Okay? So all in all, pretty simple. You can use your calculator, use it to check. Do make sure you do some of them out the long way as well. How do we add degrees, minutes, and seconds? And again, this is more so we can work with our textbook for our trigonometry section. Now, I will be posting so that you do not need to have your textbook until we're back in class, unless this extends more than a week or 2. If this extends beyond 2 weeks, I will have you go in, collect your textbook, or meet with me, and we'll get you some handouts, okay? For now, I'm going to make them up so that you can take them home. You can have access at home easily without needing to purchase a book or necessarily go into the school. So we're going to do angle A plus angle D. That's all that this symbol happens to mean. And I've got A, B, C, D, and up here because we're going to do some subtraction with them as well. So angle A plus angle D, when we add these together, we can only add units of the same kind. So I would recommend lining them up. So instead of writing them horizontally the way they are here, I will take my angle, so 66 degrees, 15 seconds, 45 minutes, And we're going to add to that angle D, which is 26 minutes or degrees, 12 minutes and 3 seconds. Then we just add straight down. So 45 and 3 is going to give me 48 seconds. 15 and 12 give me 27 minutes. And 66 and 26 give me 92 degrees. And that gives us our final answer. So nice and easy to do those that way. Where we run into a little bit of complexity is when the numbers get larger. What happens when we have larger numbers than 60 here? So we're going to do another one. We're going to add A and B this time. So we have 66 degrees, 15 seconds, and 45 minutes. And to that we add 5 degrees. Oops, this should be 48. Line that up a little better. Seconds and 48 minutes and 10 seconds. So 45 and 10 leaves me with 55 seconds. 15 and 48. So 48 plus 15 will give me 63 minutes, and 66 and 5 gives me 71 degrees. Now, this is not our final answer simply because of what we have here in the middle. This 63 minutes, we can't leave that way because 60 minutes makes 1 whole degree. So because this is greater than 60, we're going to subtract 60 from it because that's the same as 1 degree, and we add 1 to the next higher unit. Okay, so the real answer is going to be 55 seconds. We have 3 minutes and 72 degrees. Now I'd usually read it left to right. I just find for doing the math purpose, going this way works. So 72 degrees, 3 minutes and 55 seconds. So this here is a lot like doing our feet and inches component. We'll do another one that's the same. Please let me know if that red ink is difficult to see, and I will post with another color of ink in the future if that isn't coming out nice and clear for you. Maybe I'll try switching another color now, and you can let me know if you would prefer something else. So this one, we're adding angle B plus angle C. So we have 5 degrees, 48 seconds, and 48 minutes and 10 seconds. Plus we want to add to that 36 degrees, 25 minutes, and 55 seconds. All right, adding those up, 10 and 55 leaves me with 65. 48 and 25 leaves me with 73. And 5 and 36 gives me 48 degrees. So now we notice we have 2 that are greater than 60. I'm going to do them one at a time because I think it might make it a little easier for you. So we're going to take 60 off of this, and we're going to add 1 in over here. So the new one is going to be 5 seconds. We now have 74 minutes, and we still have 48 degrees. This one is still bigger than 60, so I'm going to subtract 60 and then add 1 to the degree side. And I'm running out of space, so I'll write it over here. So we're going to have 49 degrees. 74 take away 60 is going to leave me with 14 minutes and 5 seconds. And I think that lighter green gives us a much nicer color to write with, so I think I will work at switching that. All right. What about when we subtract? So subtracting is the same, except we're going to have some borrowing involved. It's not difficult at all, though. So let's do the same thing. We're going to set them up exactly the same way. So 66 degrees, 15 minutes and 45 seconds. And we're going to subtract from that 26 degrees, 12 minutes and 3 seconds. This one's an easy one. 45 minus 3 leaves us with 42 seconds. 15, this should be a 15, it looks a little like an 8. 15, I take away 12, leaves me with 3. And last but not least, 66 minus 26 leaves us with 40. Okay, so nice and simple. No borrowing involved in that one. We were able to subtract each unit down. You can probably predict that 2 and 3 are going to require us to borrow. So we have, again, we're going to start with our 66 degrees, 15 minutes, 45 seconds. And now we're going to subtract angle B, which is 5 degrees, 48 minutes, and 10 seconds. So 45 take away 10 leaves me with 50. Oh, sorry, take away 10. Let's change that number a little bit. It's not going to be a 50. We'll go back to where. So 45 take away 10 gives me 35 seconds. All right, now where we run into trouble is I have 15 take away 48. I can't do that, so we need to borrow. So we're going to borrow from over here. So I'm going to borrow 1 degree, which makes this go down to 65. I have to add 60 over here because there's 60 minutes in 1 second. So that's going to turn this number into 75 seconds. So now I take 75 and subtract 48 from it. So 75 minus 48 leaves me with 27. Okay, so all I'm really doing is I'm borrowing. I'm saying that this is equal to 65 degrees, 75 seconds, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. So we're just writing, all we're doing is writing an equivalent. So I take 1 away from the degrees, I add 60 into the seconds, and I use my new number. I got to use this 75 now. Okay, so 75 take away 48 gives me 27. And then for the degrees, 65 minus 5 gives me 60. It'd be much easier if it just was always decimals. I will say, if you find this a little bit confusing, most of the time we will use decimals, and this is just so that you know how to work with them, so you've seen them, and when it shows up, you won't go, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? Okay? And it's one of our outcomes that we do have to cover. The last one we're going to do is A minus C. So angle A, we've been starting with A a lot, but that's just because it's the biggest one here. So 66 degrees, 15 seconds, 15 minutes, 45 seconds. I can't seem to get that order in my head this morning. Minus angle C, which is 36 degrees, 25 minutes, 55 seconds. Hopefully I have enough space for this one. So 45 take away 55 can't be done, so we're going to borrow. I'm going to borrow 1 minute. So I'm going to put that as a 14 now. And 45 plus 60, so there's 60 seconds in a degree. 45 and 60 leaves me with 105. So that's my new number. 105 minus 55 leaves me with 50. 14 take away 25, it can't be done, so we're going to borrow again. So I'm going to borrow 1, so this goes down to 65. And instead of 14, I add 60 in, so my new one is going to be 74. 74 take away 25 leaves us with 49 minutes. And 65 take away 36 leaves me with 29. Now there's only a couple of those on the SAM quiz. There's only a couple of those in the practice as well. Okay, so just give them your best try and log in and check in with me if you need somebody to walk you through a few. But I'd like you to at least try one attempt on the quiz on your own before you check in with me to see, can you figure it out? There's no penalty if you need to do it twice. So for a quick lesson recap, 1 degree has 60 minutes, 1 minute has 60 seconds. Decimal degrees are most useful in calculation, but some instrumentation will require that degrees, minutes, and seconds, so that's the reason we're doing that. And I want you to only subtract units of the same measure. Okay, so you can combine degrees and degrees, seconds and seconds, minutes and minutes, but you can't mix them up, which means that sometimes you will be required to borrow.